thank my lucky stars to be living here today. 'Cause the flag still stands for freedom, and they can't take that away.
You're listening to Wild About Liberty on KXEX 1550, where we discuss the importance of our liberty and how to preserve it. Now, here's your host, Terry Wild.
We have a good show for you today. We're dealing with a couple of issues, but our guests are Allison Moon. Thank you for coming on, Allison. You're the state grassroots coordinator for the Convention of States.
Yes.
We're going to talk about that. And then we have Richard Bailey, local attorney. And Richard, you really helped bring this whole program about. And you've advised and given us a lot of good ideas and continue to help us. So if this isn't a success, it's all your fault.
No. Not my fault.
His fault.
Yeah, it's his idea. I just show up a little bit. So hope we have fun today. This is going to be great.
Well, that's the intent. But, Wild About Liberty, there's three of us in the studio today. This is our fifth program. And so it's starting to kind of fit a little bit. I'm starting to feel more relaxed about the program. But why are we doing this program? And the reason is represented here today with Richard and Allison. You guys have been involved now for how long have you been actually volunteering out there, talking it up and trying to make a difference?
Almost 4 years.
4 years. So that's when we started 4 years ago. And so tell us a little bit about how you decided to become active.
I was tired of my husband yelling and screaming at the TV and throwing things at it, to be quite frank. We decided that it was time to actually step up and take a stand and get involved. And so we looked for an organization, and we found Convention of States.
Well, we're going to talk about that. Richard, how did you decide, what made you decide to step up and get involved and be active?
Terry made me do it.
Exactly.
I didn't want to, but here I am. So it's this is fun, and I hope we can have a fun program today. And we've got a lot of really interesting programs coming up.
Well, what we're trying to do here is we're part of a bigger network. So Liberty Coalition came into this building in Clovis at 1123 Railroad Avenue 4 years ago, basically. And our intent was to provide an atmosphere for people to gather, to network, to be involved with each other and support each other. And we have been able to do that, I think, fairly well. We have a number of groups that are involved, but that's why Wild About Liberty has gone to the airways. And we're on KXEX Radio. We have the podcast that's available of all of our shows on YouTube, Facebook, Rumble. And the reason for that is we feel the need, and we feel, call it the threat, to our country.
Definitely.
And so this program is designed to get you, the listener, to pay attention, to get you information and keep you informed, but also to let you know that there's other groups available throughout the county that you could participate in. The CRA, the NRA, the CRA is the California Republican Assembly. They're a strong group, and Molly has that group. She's the president. They're meeting here at this building tonight, 6 o'clock, if you wanted to step in and see what they're doing. They use this place as their meeting place once a month, and that's the CRA. And we're at 1123 Railroad Avenue. Get involved. Take some action. See how you can make a difference. So there's many other groups. And so we're going to point you to those. We're going to be discussing the issues today. We're going to be talking about the Convention of States and some other things just to help you understand where we are, And if you can take the time and get involved, we want to encourage you to do that. But especially, we want you to vote and get other people registered and involved in voting. So, Richard, we've got some things going on around the country and some updates. What do you have for us?
Well, actually, the update program's on Friday, but I was interested in hearing from listeners on what you'd like to hear from the program. I mean, we've been doing this for a couple weeks now, and it's getting a little looser, and it should be a fun place to spend your time. And we want to provide information and a place you can tune into and have fun. And so I feel it's a real privilege to be able to do this, and I'm just looking forward to the next step.
Well, if you want to send any information to Wild About Liberty, if you have any suggestions, if you have any questions, if you want to make give us any news that you are aware of that we should pass on. So the address to contact us is www.wildaboutliberty.com, and we appreciate your input. So, Allison, you decided to take on this responsibility. Tell us about the Convention of States and what you're trying to do.
Okay. Our mission is to build an engaged army of self-governing grassroots activists. We believe that change starts here in our hometowns, where we are. We believe that it's time to take a stand, and we're using Article 5 of the Constitution as the last legal means that we find available to ourselves to take control or to help rein in the federal government.
So if people want to know more about it or get involved, what do they do?
They go to conventionofstates.com. It's just the conventionofstates.com. You can sign the petition there. You can go to the resource tab and you can find articles and you can find videos to watch that will help expand your knowledge. And then there's also a take action page if you're somebody who wants to step up and get involved, and it'll list all the volunteer opportunities that are available, and maybe you'll find some place to put your talents to use for a few hours.
So then do you hold any kind of regular meetings?
Right now, locally, we're not holding any meetings. We have state meetings with state leadership. We have leaders meetings with our volunteers. We're all throughout the state. And we gather at state, a lot of Zoom meetings because California is a big state.
It is. Well, okay, so what is the objective? So what can anybody do? What can the average person do to accomplish what you're out to do?
We have to remember that we, the people, decide. We have a voice, and we haven't been using it. And it's time to step up. Letting your legislators know what you're concerned about and how you feel on issues is so important. That's the capital that they want, that concerns them, is how their constituents feel. If they got bombarded saying that they were tired of the federal government in their back pockets and they were tired of these people that have been in office forever and we need term limits, you write your legislator and they're going to listen, especially if it's a handwritten note. They don't get those handwritten notes very often. So those handwritten notes and phone calls, they get tagged. And, if thousands of people start doing that in each assembly district, I tell you, they take note and they listen. Your board of supervisors will listen, and your school boards will listen as well.
So the Convention of States, how does that change anything? What does that actually accomplish?
What we do is we're using the Constitution, Article 5, to call a Convention of States to propose amendments. And right now, the resolution that's passed in 19 states and is active in another 20 is proposing, it has 3 points to it. One, term limits, not only on Congress, but legislative federal officials and judges. Why should they be in there forever? Those federal officials are not voted in and they're there for life. Why? There needs to be accountability.
And that's an issue having to do with changing the Constitution?
Term limits. Yes, we have term limits in California. Why shouldn't the national government have term limits? We need to have turnover. We need to have new ideas, and we need to get this cronyism out. We need to have new blood. And then a second point is reining in the federal spending. There's no way anybody could argue that it's not out of control. They're spending our tax dollars on everything but us. and everybody but us. And we need to rein that in. If that's a balanced budget, I don't know, but there's got to be some accountability for their spending. And then third is to rein in their federal power. And that's mainly talking about all the federal bureaucracy that's been created. They can make mandates and regulations, and we have no recourse. They're not elected.
Now, that sounds to me like the system is broken.
The system's broken, and we have a solution.
What do you think, Richard? Is the system broken?
Well, I think, first of all, I want to sort of comment that this is a really fun issue to deal with. It gives us an opportunity to see the benefits of this radio station. In other words, we have a constitutional convention issue. I know that, for instance, Marco Rubio and Sean Hannity is to offer the people listening a chance to get information. And so far, I looked at the website for the Convention of States. There's also a Congressional Research Service has an Article 5 convention article, which is from 2016. Cato Institute has a really good article from 2016. And then there's another article from a law review article from 2022. So this is an important issue. It deals with the future of our country. So getting the information would be helpful. And I think that the concern is a runaway convention. And so I understand that the hope is that we're not going to have one, but the Article 5 is remarkable for having no rules. It says you can do it, but it doesn't say how you're going to do it, who's going to chair the thing, how the people are going to get elected that are going to do it. And we know the first constitutional convention in the 1787, the convention ran away with it.
I disagree.
Okay.
I disagree.
So the thing is, they were sent to propose articles, amendments to the articles, but the literature I'm looking at says that that convention has been viewed as a runaway convention. So in other words, instead of rewriting the articles, they threw it out. So that's the concern, and I know that there are good people that are in favor of it, and at this point we can do a deeper dive in a later program, but I'm looking forward to this conversation just to get started.
What's your disagreement?
My disagreement is I don't believe that the Constitution was based on a runaway convention. I believe that there were 5 states that gathered together over a discussion about waterways, and that wasn't enough people to come up with the ideas of what the federal government should be doing. And so they decided right then and there that they needed to call a convention of states, or they needed to get the people together and to form the federal government. And then they sent out to their states. Now, you got to remember, back in that time, the states were sovereign. There was not a strong federal government. And the states called the convention for the federal government to form the federal government. So it wasn't a runaway, and they didn't go against because the original one was called by 5 states.
Well, the whole idea of we're trying to solve a problem. The whole purpose of the Convention of States is to try and solve a problem that it came about by just people. Men will be men. Reaching for power, and
the forefathers saw that, and they know that men would be men, and they would eventually be power hungry, and that's what's happened. We have a federal government that's power hungry and out for their own well-being and not ours.
Well, the Convention of States is one of the options that we have.
It's a legal option,
and and it could really help us out. But it also deserves discussion and debate. So we're not going to go heavy into the debate part of it today. But we're introducing it as an option for people to consider and support. But you really need to be well informed before we make any decisions. So we'll have additional shows, and we'll talk about more of the technical aspects of how this is all going to work. But at least we're doing something.
We are.
You're doing something.
We're taking a stand. I'm taking a stand. And, I've got to do something. And I talk to grassroots from all over the state, and they call and they go, I just don't know what to do. I need some hope. I need something to do. Where do I start? And they're just seeking a way for a solution. They're looking for it. And there's so many good people out there, but the news, they report on all the negative, and they forget about all the good people out there who do have strong feelings and they're looking for vehicles to stand up.
Well, that's what we want people to know about. We want to point them into that direction. And, the government that we have today, besides being frightening,
It is.
Is working against the very principles of the Constitution on almost every side. And in California, it's a shining example of how it's possible to take our rights away, which they've taken a lot of our rights away, and to nullify or cripple the Constitution. How do you see that working? People are waking up, they're seeing this happen, and now we're trying to inform people. And what's your take on how to succeed?
Well, amending the Constitution is a great idea. The only question is this the mechanism that's going to do it, or is it going to be hijacked by the left? So that's, it's debatable. I understand that the Convention of States think they've got a solution to that, but I'm looking at the literature, and like Phyllis Schlafly saying, it never occurs to the people that are running it that Bernie Sanders supporters will show up to demand constitutional amendments requiring taxpayers to pay for free college and other free stuff. Well, you got to imagine that this convention, the original convention, was held with closed doors. This one's going to have open doors. You're going to have people in the streets. It's going to, I think the possibility for it to be very destabilizing for the country exists, especially when you've got a really aggressive left that's doing everything they can to tear down our basic institutions. So
But the other side is out there too, fighting, and we can't let down just because the left may do something. We need to stand up and we need to fight.
So standing up, yeah, I understand. So I mean, it's good to stand up, but the question is how you do it. So I think I'm really enthusiastic for this conversation because we're going to give people a chance that probably never heard of the Constitutional Convention to sort of check it out. And so that's all I'm suggesting.
And I want to correct you just real quick. It's not a constitutional convention. There's a big difference between a constitutional convention and a convention of states, and we can talk about that next time.
Sure.
But there's a big difference between the two, so please don't confuse that. We're doing a convention of states for amending the Constitution.
I just have one question. Are we having fun yet?
Oh, we are having fun.
Yeah, this is good. I mean, the thing is, we're here, and I'm just grateful because I haven't looked at this thing that closely, and now I have. So it's very cool to sort of look at it. One of the things you've got to realize, this has been tried several times before, and it never got any place because it sort of went under the radar at the state level. People just said, okay, pass it along. But then when you get close to actually doing it, people said, gee, runaway convention, we're not going to roll the dice on that. So I understand the people here are confident, but I am concerned.
And one thing that Convention of States does is all the states have to agree on the platform. 34 states have to agree on a platform. Right now we've got 19 and 20 in play. And they all have to agree on the same 3 points to go into convention. Anything else brought up is out of order. The states have to agree going in on what they're going to be talking about.
So they can't introduce...
Nope, it's out of order.
And so those 3 issues, who decides what 3 issues to talk about?
We decided that as an organization.
Right.
And when we started getting it passed in states, and so every time we go to a new state, it's the same basic platform. They may add some amendments to it as to how the representative from their state is going to be elected or how they're supposed to represent the state. But the 3 steps of the platform are identical in all states.
Well, this is something people should be looking into.
Go to
they're listening to us,
conventionofstates.com.
but go there, but they should look at other places as well and get informed.
Can I add?
Yeah, please do.
Okay. So I got this list of quotes, and I figured I wasn't going to do that much, but a little bit. The one I really like is Barry Goldwater. And he said, if we hold a constitutional convention, in Convention of States is under Article 5, every group in the country, majority, minority, middle, is going to get its 2 bits in, and we are going to wind up with a constitution that will be so different from the one we have lived under for 200 years that I doubt the republic could continue. So that's what you're rolling the dice on. In other words, the existence of the Constitution is going to be on the table. And the concern I have, given the way the left plays politics, is that it's going to be a mess at best, and could be the end of the republic at worst.
I disagree. I think it's saving the republic. So we'll talk more on that.
Yeah.
But recently, our new Speaker of the House, Mike Johnson, he helped pass Convention of States in Louisiana, and he's a proponent for Convention of States. The Heritage Foundation, big endorsement this last week. Not only did their vice president come out, John Malcolm, in favor of Convention of States, but the president, Dr. Kevin Roberts of the Heritage Foundation, came out in support of Convention of States as being the only vehicle to rein in the federal government. And so those are big endorsements, and people will recognize the Heritage Foundation. And of course, our speaker is in the news lately, and these are people in the know, and they're standing up for what's right.
So let's shift topics just a little bit, because I'd like to talk about this new speaker. What's your opinion of him? What do you think?
So far, he's already started standing up. He's already started standing up against the left, and I love it.
Richard, what's
he's
your
having
take
prayer on
him?
the floor. I love it.
I think he's an ace. He's basically stuck. Louisiana is apparently the ground zero for conservatives right now. So everybody that comes out of there is hitting home runs.
Well, I spent my golden days of military training at Fort Polk, Louisiana, and that was 1965. And I can tell you, I didn't realize that there was a conservative anywhere in Louisiana.
There is.
Interesting.
There is.
Yeah. So I was impressed by this guy, and everybody got mad at Matt. I don't know if I can pronounce his last name quite right, but Gates. And he was accused of causing this horrible situation and getting rid of McCarthy, and then where do we go from here? But it turned out rather well, didn't it?
I think it did. I think it did for conservatives. I really do.
Well, it just shows you what a robust institution the Congress is, and the fact that we have such a deep bench indicates that realignment is happening like crazy. In other words, Republicans and conservatives should be confident in the future. Things may be a little bumpy at times, but realignment has been happening since 2016. Huge groups of Americans have been shifting parties. The Democrats right now are going at each other over anti-Semitism, and in ways that you haven't seen in generations. So that is why I think that looking at the current situation, you have to, in taking a long view, you have to be really loving it.
Well, what do you think, for example, of, well, tell us what realignment is. What is realignment? For people listening, they wouldn't understand what that means.
So we had a surprise in 2016. Donald Trump got elected. And that was an existential threat to the left. I mean, the people that are calling them left is a little bit misleading, because they're the conservatives. They're the ones that are reactionary. They're the ones who don't want to see Americans prosper. They are parasites on body politic. So to the extent that we had that event and people starting to peel off from the Democratic coalition, that is the realignment. So it's the cascade that happened in 2016 included countries all over the world, and it's continuing. You look at conservative candidates in Argentina, Italy, Germany, and they're all moving away from a very dysfunctional system that is not going to survive. So that's why you just have to hang in there and ride it out.
Well, I had a conversation earlier with Eric Rowland. He has a program on KXEX as well. And he was telling me about that, the realignment of these countries, even Germany, which, got to the point of being woke and crazy. They are coming along. New Zealand is improving. Australia is improving. So we see things going on out there.
See hope.
We hope. But then there's America, and then there's Fresno County. What's your read of how things are coming together in Fresno County? We have elections coming up. We're dealing with school issues especially. I know that's going on right now.
And parents are speaking up. They're making a difference. They're not just sitting at home anymore complaining about it. They're being active. They're attending their school board meetings, and they're speaking up. And that's fantastic. That's what it needs to happen.
So what happens is until the adults show up, the people who are running these corrupt systems can keep functioning. So right now, parents are saying, we're going to protect our kids. Coming after your kids is unacceptable. And Governor Youngkin in Virginia said, I ran on kitchen table issues, which means the kind of issues that people live with every day. So that's kitchen table issues is the formula for cleaning the table of these corrupt politicians. And you can call it whatever you want, lefty, righty. It's really corruption. So clean government, teaching your kids to read and write, those are basic things.
Well, Fresno County has some real great quality leaders and people that are trying to organize, and we want our listeners to know that they can be involved and they can make a contribution because, I think you said this a few years ago when you first started to formulate your, take on how to change things. Have you had enough?
Exactly.
I think that was your statement. Have you had enough? And then it wasn't true. People didn't have enough yet. But I think now, like you're saying, Allison, people have had enough.
People have had enough. They really have. And they're looking for a vehicle for their voices. They're looking for how to stand up and how to make a difference.
Well, one of the things that is being done right now is the precinct walking program and the precinct captain program in Fresno County. That's a huge deal. That really makes a difference. And I think I may have these numbers wrong because I said the other day on air it was 800. I think it's 600, but we have to, regardless, 600 or 800 people need to be recruited. We have, I think, around 250 right now.
So, anybody listening, precinct walking is the greatest thing ever. It's really fun. And you get out there and you hang around with the neighbors. They get to know you and you trade insults. It's great. And and then when time comes to, move on, that's the engines that's going to change America. So it's great. It's really a fun thing.
Well, one of the reactions that we got when we had our meeting recently about it, the requirements are rather minimal. They're only asking people to go out 2 times, and then they knock on these doors that are predetermined. They're people that would be likely to vote. And the reaction was, no, let's knock on all the doors.
Yeah.
Let's make a difference.
Definitely.
People are motivated.
It's getting to know the neighbors. And you're finding, as time goes on, people are disgusted with the Democrats.
Well, if you want to be involved in a precinct program, you could go to the Republican Party website. You can go to our website, www.libertycoalition.com. but it is a way to really make a difference. Your time would be valuable. It would be useful. It would make a difference. And so you're only talking about a number of homes in your own neighborhood. But one of the things we're encouraging at Liberty Coalition is let's set up a team of people rather than just one person taking the responsibility for 100 houses or something like that. But we can put 2 or 3 people together, lighten the load, and really do a good job. And if necessary, if people are up for it, they can do more once it's organized.
So the other thing that's a game changer is Dran Reese's Salt and Light Christian voting model. That is right now what 1/4 of Christians actually vote, half aren't registered.
25%.
Yeah. So that changed the landscape of California. When Christians stopped voting, that gave the state to this bunch of corrupt politicians. So the way to take it back is to follow Dran Reese's model, and I think she'll be on here fairly frequently.
Yes, we have our incredible technician here, Jeremy, has solved a lot of the problems of being able to get through to us on the telephone and now on Zoom. We have a permanent Zoom invitation that once you get the username and the password, you can come on anytime. You don't have to do it again and again. You can get that information on our website, libertycoalition.com or wildaboutliberty.com, and become a participant. You could call in, be on Zoom, express your opinions and ideas, and make a little occasional criticism. That would be all right. But we really want to do everything we can to organize for this next election. We have 12 months. Exactly. We're on the countdown. The clock is ticking. March is the primaries. And so we want people to step up and do something.
So one idea was to frame the next few months in terms of saving our kids. Saving our kids is something that most people care about. Kids are not being educated; they're being indoctrinated in ways that are very destructive, but they're not being given the tools they need to succeed. And so every parent, every grandparent, and even if it's just the neighbors, that should be a situation where you say we've had enough, and we're gonna do something. So that seems to be a reasonable way of framing going out to the neighborhoods and talking to people.
Well, one of the ways you could be involved, if you have time this evening, 6 o'clock here at 1123 Railroad Avenue in Clovis, California, near Barstow, the CRA is meeting. They have a plan to deal with the school issue that's taking place right now with Supervisor Brandow. There's a lot of drama going on. It's critical. There's a real threat that deals with pornography in the schools and what the schools can do without parental consent. And that's really the key, that we have to succeed at defending and protecting the rights of the parents over their kids.
So we're going to win. The only question is how soon. So every day that we let go by without getting on the streets, this is like, the revolutionary period where you just have to hit the streets and start doing things. Just thinking about it or having good intentions at this point in history is not good enough.
Well, you need to come to the meeting tonight. It's the California Republican Assembly, and let your voice be heard and volunteer and be a part of this effort, especially that we're taking on right now in the schools in Clovis and Fresno County. That's a big deal. But it's also a big deal what you mentioned, Rich. Dran Reese has the Salt and Light Council. Their website is saltandlightcouncil.org, and you could Google them, and I think there's also a .com. But they've provided so much information. they have organized that information in a way that you can easily get the information, you can take action, you can participate, and getting the churches to allow what they call affiliates in their churches to hand out material and get people registered to vote and get people voting. If we don't do that, then shame on us, because how can you justify only 25% of the Christians voting when our whole battle is over Christian Judeo values in our country, in our schools, in our libraries? The library is under severe attack right now. And like you said, we're going to win because people are waking up, but let's do it sooner than later.
We'll be back on Friday to talk about what's been happening the last couple of weeks. And I think the focus on realignment is one of those things that is sort of like a continuing source of encouragement. So I'm looking forward to getting together with Terry on that and having fun.
Well, tomorrow's program here at 1550 KXCX, starting at 6 o'clock tomorrow, we have outstanding person, Sandy Trojan, has spent a lot of time dealing with the schools. And so she's going to have a lot to say tomorrow. We want you to tune in and listen to that program. And we have some other exciting programs coming up with the 17th. We opened up our program with a live audience. We ran into a little bit of technical difficulty, but we're fixing that. So our next live audience is on the 17th, and it's going to be a program based around God, business, and politics. And so we have
No opinions there.
God is being represented. God is being represented by Pastor Jimmy Foote. And so he's going to be here to tell us about that. And then Tom Summers is a man that, if you don't know him, he has been involved in the Christian community in Fresno County for 50 years. He was the head of the Christian Businessmen's Association, and he helped mentor people. I just met somebody the other day. We're talking, his name came up. He said, Tom Summers mentored me when I was in college here, and that was like 30 years ago. And so Tom has been a pillar in this community, and he's bringing a very prominent businessman here, Bill Smithcamp. He's going to be a guest on our program and talk about the business aspect and how it relates to serving God. So it's going to be a good show. That's the 17th. We're going to have a dinner a lunch available from 12 to 2 o'clock. And the audience is actually going to be at 12 to 2 o'clock, starting at the program after lunch. I got that a little messed up.
Okay.
Again, what is?
I got that a little messed up. I can't get used to the idea that we're taping some of the programs at this stage until we get things further built out. So on that show on the 17th, it starts at 1 o'clock to 2 o'clock. Before that, we're opening the place up for lunch, that people want to come and have lunch. We're going to be taping it, and it's going to be put on the air at 6 o'clock to 7 o'clock.
Is there a cost for them attending the lunch?
Well, there's no cost to attend, but if they want lunch, it's $15, and we have a buffet type lunch that people seem to enjoy.
So I just want to thank Terry for having me here and letting Allison beat up on me the whole time.
Allison, you should be more gentle.
I believe firmly in the Constitution, and I'm going to stand and fight.
Good for you.
And I look forward to future conversations about a constitutional convention versus a convention of states, and talking about whether or not the first convention was a runaway or not.
Yeah, looking forward to it. We got to do it.
We got to do it.
Game on.
Game on.
Game on. We're going to do it. But it really is valuable. I think, people need to know the facts, and we're going to try and give them to them.
We will. And if you've got questions, send them to Liberty and let us know.
Yeah. So now, we're all here in Fresno County. You've been involved, You've been involved. I've been involved. We've had a change in leadership with the Republican Party, and we have Elizabeth Kolstad is now the county director, and she's getting herself kind of aligned and familiar with everything that's going on. You were part of the Republican Party Central Committee. What's your take?
Well, I think right now, what we're doing right now in this building is we're creating a hub for generating votes and generating wins. So I am going to stick with the activities we're doing here. I got to root for everybody, but I think that I'm really encouraged about what Terry's been doing here, and this is going to create a wave of enthusiasm that is going to ripple out throughout the county.
Well, that's what we hope. That's our intention, and that's what we want to see happen. But I talked yesterday a little bit about how all of this relates to what God is doing, because we live in a natural environment. We live under natural law. We are part of a system that God created. It's a natural world. He put us here on purpose, but we also have a spiritual component to our lives, and that component has to be included, and we have to operate within that realm of the spiritual dimension, and we have to use our God-given information and spiritual life to make these decisions. It isn't just an intellectual, rational decision.
We can't survive these times without the Holy Ghost. We just can't.
So what's your take on how people include God's perspective, the Bible perspective, on making some of these decisions?
Right. Well, there's a pretty simple test, the peace of God test.
Okay.
If we are faithful and just, and et cetera, God is drawing a blank here. Anyway, the point is that if you have the peace of God, that's a good indication that your politics is in the strike zone.
What about you, Allison?
I believe your moral base guides what you do in your life, and a strong moral base based in Christ is never going to lead you wrong.
Well, you know what? It's really fun to do, and we have to do a program about this aspect of what does God think, and what is God telling us to do? Is he even speaking? Now, there are plenty of people who just don't want to bother with God. They don't think it's realistic. They don't think it's real. And they make decisions based on their own ability to rationalize what we should do. But if you're a Christian, and that's what we are, this is a faith-based organization. This is a faith-based radio broadcast and television podcast. And we want to encourage people to understand that God has a plan. This isn't up to us. We don't make the final decisions. He has a plan, and that plan is given to us. It's laid out for us in Scripture, and it's up to us to take the time to find out what that plan is and how it works. So that's the part that I'm saying. All of this politic involvement is important. We're meant to be involved in civil government. It's the way God created civil government to restrain evil. And so it's important. And Christians need to know that it's important. But they also need to know and have some information and Bible knowledge about what to do.
So the idea of being a servant is something that is coming back. The word servant leaders are hitting home runs in business and in athletics. And in politics, if you rely on being a servant rather than charismatic or anything else, you're on the right track.
Well,
and Convention of States actually takes the time to train its leaders in servant leadership.
Okay, so we're going to schedule round 2.
Round 2.
And we're going to do the Convention of States, and we're going to duke it out a little bit. But what a pleasure to have you both on the show today. I really appreciate you
Thank you for
taking
the
the time.
opportunity.
We're going to be here every single day from 6 to 7. We want you to tune in. You can get us on YouTube, watch the show. We appreciate you listening. We want you to benefit, so you come back and listen to our shows, and we'll do our best to deliver Wild About Liberty, because liberty means a lot to all of us, and we're part of this country. I love this country, and we want to keep it America. We don't want it to be taken away from us. So we're here to do our very best. Thank you, and God bless.
Thank you.
Thank you for listening to Wild About Liberty with Terry Wild, only on KXCX 1550.
And I won't forget